This is Angelina with another video. This one is going to be called Why the Ego is Never Free. You know, it's not actually something you ever need to think about. I mean, you're either being it or you're not. You know, you're either being fully conscious, or you're not. You're either allowing yourself to be led, or you're leading yourself. You know, you're either allowing others to control you, or you've taken your power back. You know, you're either in conscious realities, or you're still caught up in unconscious ones. So again, it's not something you ever need to really think about. You know, you come into freedom when you stop accepting less. You know, when you allow yourself to, open up. And when you stop allowing yourself to be restricted by the linear egoic mind. When you, can observe your own subconscious. You know, when you become cosmically aligned. You know, if you're enabling yourself to be controlled, led, run, then you may be still in the illusion of the belief that you're not free. Not knowing that other dimensional timelines do exist. You know, that you can shift your own consciousness. You can choose a completely different reality and be part of a more rewarding, fulfilling, deeply connected way of life. You know, it's the ego that keeps applying itself to the limits, you know, is unkind to itself, holds on, feels confined, you know, detached, alone. May have a few trust issues, looks for escape or ways to feel better, or needs things to be happy. You know, which is sort of how those third and fourth dimensional external realities comes into play. You know, relating to that level of consciousness. I mean, the governments are promoting a version as to what freedom is, while the soul, that's the doorway to becoming free. You know, let's say someone sides with the government's version, actually. I did have a conversation with someone who was still not seeing. Well, let's say someone sides with the government's version. Well, they might have a view that they need to obey and follow that out there, which would be a prolonged unconscious pattern. So continue to be in service to its oppressor. You know, all those collectives that act as dictators, you know, wait to be told what to do. You know, placing themselves into a more restricted space without even having the awareness of that. You know, trusting in those distorted narratives, impairing its organic functions, and convincing itself that that's the way to go to one day being free, unaware that they still remain under the control of that same system. You know, when you allow anything to have reign or control over you, well, that's what recodes and modulates your overall functions, you know, keeping you attached to a lower frequency bandwidth, you know, which is where illness and also physical body death occurs, as the body is unable to process photonic light, you know, raise its vibration, elevate its consciousness. And the base frequency for existing on new earth is having and holding a gamma state, is having a fifth dimensional level of consciousness and above, which is why any form of reign or control that one has placed over themselves, it's not a way to go about being free, because you'll be fulfilling someone else's agenda, someone else's plans, and also still being led. You'd already be in a compromised state, under your own spell, under your own illusion, lack of your own inner mastery, not standing in your own sovereignty, by holding on to those old mentalities, exhausting yourself. In another way, you'd be allowing those governments to be your masters. You only have to look at the relationship, your connection with them, to see how lopsided it is, how disconnected, how untrustworthy and chaotic that group has allowed themselves to become, caught up in their own madness and dragging you along, while you're still allowing yourself to be manipulated, exploited, adhering to that same group of collectives that tell you what things you need to do, what things you need to take into your bodies, just to forward their own agenda, and have the belief that that will set you on the way to being free. If you're not already able to see beyond those pretenses, you'd be in an unconscious state. Looking to them as your saviors, oblivious to what's really taking place, due to be drawn into that false trickery, which the linear mind might translate to you as hope. You're already free. It's just becoming aware of that, making changes in your now presence, not by being in your head. Being in your head, well, that's waiting for things out there to change. To then structure your life around that, and that won't free you. And that's because you're still allowing yourself to be guided and directed by those governing bodies, and then only to experience their new version of what being free is. You come into freedom, you come into consciousness when you cease externalizing your power, amongst other things. You change the direction of your own life. You start becoming the difference. And if you're not, and still want to get caught up in those external holograms, you're not seeing that those governmental systems, they've made it very challenging for their obedient servants to be free from those encodements that links them to that old programmed existence. Because its purpose is to control, suppress, promote fear, not provide methods of how to come into full consciousness, or let you know how powerful you really are. Because then that would have collapsed their whole system a long time ago. And they need participants. And that's why they're a control system designed to enslave, not free. So if you want really anything out there to be different, you need to become the change yourself, become unified, harmonized, balanced. Change everything about yourself that has a need to get caught up in drama, chaos, mayhem, judgment. A return to full consciousness is becoming whole on a soul level. No longer being influenced by the limited egoic mind. Anyway, I'll do another video soon. And thank you for watching.